Hello and welcome to Self Power Now, where empowering women share their stories and advice about life, work, happiness, love, and success. I'm your host, Debbie Giussoni, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. So sit back and enjoy the show. My guest today is Nola Masterson. I've known Nola, I don't know Nola, maybe for about 10 years now, first as a women's workshop leader, then as a board member and a venture capitalist. Nola is quite accomplished. She was the first female biotechnology analyst on Wall Street. And since then, she's been a trailblazer for women all over the world, in all fields as well. Currently, she's the lead investor in Portfolia Femtech Fund, where she helps educate and support women investors to be comfortable investing in young companies that are offering products and services for women's health and wellness. Very, very important for all the women who listen to this show. Welcome to Self Power Now, Nola.
Thank you so much, Debbie Giussoni, my friend and my hero.
Oh, thank you. You're definitely, since the moment I met you, I felt that you were definitely a woman who was self-powered in your own career and your own life. And now you're using a lot of that passion to help other women be healthier and happier with the Femtech Fund, and also more successful in everything they do. Let's, though, step back and take a little journey back and talk a little bit about your own personal journey. What, like for me, for instance, I got into the tech world, but I didn't really choose to be in a very male dominated field. I kind of just fell into it. Like if I had my choice, instead of working on tech magazines, I probably wanted to work on a fashion magazine. Did you enter the biotech field intentionally, or did you, like me, kind of fall into it?
I intentionally went into it. In the 10th grade, I was asked to do extra work in order to get the A I deserved in biology. So I went home and looked at my father's newsletters. He was a doctor. And on the front page of the newsletter in the 60s was the structure of deoxyribonucleic acid had been elucidated by Watson and Crick. I said, that's a really
I don't even know what that is, but keep going.
That's a really big word. I will get an A for writing that down and sending that in. And so I had a preview for where biotech was going, what DNA was, and why it was going to be important from high school. And I fell in love with it. And I was really, I must say, a scientific junkie about what was going to happen with DNA.
Do you think that that came from, you said your father was a doctor. What kind of doctor was he?
He was an orthopedic surgeon, and my mother was a nurse. So we were at the hospital a lot if we wanted to see my father. And it was all about the patient care. And my mom was very nurse-like. But, the biotech side was really about how biotech has really been instrumental in the new drugs that we can use, because it was a biological approach to curing diseases rather than just relying on chemistry.
And were they talking about that back in the late 60s, though, even
No,
at that time?
no, they weren't. They
You
were
just
not.
you just had a good intuition that this was going to be important.
I had a passion to do something important. I took some of my master's courses at the medical school at George Washington, and I realized I did not want to be a doctor because I really didn't like doctors. They were kind of cutthroat in medical school, at least, and they weren't collaborative. And I thought I will be a scientist. And then once I got into science and doing bench work, I went, well, this is nice, but it's really detailed, and I'm a big picture person, and I have to honor my basic, DNA myself. I see big pictures, and I don't want to learn more about the veins on the leaf of the tree in the forest. I want to talk about the forest and what the big picture is, and that's still DNA. So I left science and I went to work in industry, but I went to work in the biotech industry early. It was called diagnostics. People were diagnosing diseases from taking blood samples or looking at your urine or chemistry. And then from that, I went to work for a company called Millipore Corporation, which sold membrane filters, which were a new thing that we had. We were always looking for ways to use it. It came out of World War II. It was found in Germany as a way to see if the water was drinkable. And what we found in the early 70s, mid 70s, was that DNA preferentially bound to the Millipore filter. And it became the Xerox paper of the biotech industry. And you could cut and paste DNA with what they called restriction enzymes at that time. Millipore bought an enzyme company. I then had to teach my sales force how to sell enzymes. So I grew up with the evolution of the science around biotechnology. And for me, it was a kid in a candy store. I just loved it.
And having your parents in sort of medical, more scientific field, I'm sure helped as well in terms of, I'm sure they encouraged you, right?
I was the only one that was really interested in science out of the 6 kids in our family.
Oh,
So
6 kids. Okay, well, my parents were immigrants who never knew what I did ever. They were like, "Okay, you got a job. That's great." They just they used to see my name at the top of the magazine, as publisher, associate publisher, and they used to say, "Oh yeah, that's my daughter. She's in charge." But they really never knew what I did.
I mean, after 8 years of carrying a bag and training Salesforce and really voyeuring what was going on in California around the biotech industry, I started my own company called Science Futures because I really wanted to spend time with my daughter, who was only 3. And my father finally figured out that Science Futures was going to be an important thing in people's lives. And he was very proud.
You thought it was a little side thing while you were being a mother, right?
Yeah, but it's still operating today, 40 years later.
Well, in your own company, as well as before you started your company, I'm sure you got a lot of pushback from the dominant male colleagues at that time. Do you have any stories, first of all, and how did you handle that?
I was a novelty, and I used it to my advantage because nobody had ever seen a salesperson that was a female. So they were like, "Oh, well, she's a female and she's from Millipore. I'll let her in. We want to see that." And it was really to my advantage. And most of the people that I worked with were fairly respectful. Although I can always say that hashtag Me Too happened to me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you handle it personally?
In the beginning, I was shocked, and then I realized that this was life in the fast lane with men, and I developed a pretty good set of boundaries. And my nickname was Iron Pants.
I love that. That's probably a good nickname to have as a woman in a male-dominated field.
You won't get into hers, so forget about it.
I think you're right. Using it to your advantage, I think is good. I feel like I had a lot of those same sets of tools where you set up the boundaries right away because I was in male-dominated industry and tech for a long time as well. And I feel like I fared fairly well. But I also think too that that track of sales helps a lot too, because in a sales role, you directly impact revenue and you can't be ignored, right? So women who are out there who are looking for ways to, get into male dominated industries, I think sales is a great route. I started in sales. And again, when you're bringing in revenue and you have control over your environment and over your territory, you actually don't get too involved in the corporate politics.
That's exactly right, Debbie.
Yeah. I always say that people should learn sales no matter what in any college degree, because it's going to help in anything that you do, because you're always selling yourself, right? You're
always selling yourself, and nothing happens until something gets sold. And really what people want is for you to sell them something they already want.
Right. What advice do you give young women entrepreneurs right now, either entrepreneurs or women that are working in corporate, in terms of advancing their own careers or maybe coming head to head in more of a male dominated world?
Life has really changed for women. I think they're in a better position now than they ever have been to name their terms and name what they want to do. But I agree with you, in the tech world, it's still very male dominated. So I think at some point in most women's careers, they have to strike out on their own. and they should find what drives them. They should find what in their own DNA is passion to them, and they should evolve their career around their own passion, so that they're not asking to have passion come from their job or their boss or from the people that work with them, but they're internalizing what they love and they're doing what they love. And no one can ever take that away from you.
Mm. Well, that's a nice pivot into the work that you're doing at Portfolio, because once again, you're supporting women in a field that is mainly male dominated. I mean, we're both in Silicon Valley, and the venture capital world is huge here, but I would say about 98% of that, maybe I'm wrong, I'm just throwing out a figure and you can probably correct me, but about over 90% is very male dominated with venture capital. And I believe most of the venture capital funding goes to male dominated companies or male run companies, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, men like to invest in things that they think they need. They don't
Yes.
they don't invest in things that women need because they don't have our lens. And so we can't make them wrong for that. They see what they see. But that's why Portfolia exists, because Portfolia is
Oh,
about
that's right. I said portfolio. It's portfolio. That's right. So hard. Yeah.
so but it's about women investing in things that they want to see in the world and getting the impact and the return that men have been traditionally getting. But while they're investing in the things they want to see in the world, they're also supporting women entrepreneurs and places that the males didn't missed, actually, that
Mm.
large markets that men are missing because they're men.
Yeah. And is it because of the product that the women have, or is it because they are just women run? Because, women might be running companies that have products that are for the global good or for men as well, and they're still not getting VC funded, right?
Right. I mean, it's pitiful that most of the venture capital goes to men, but that we're trying to make a shift in that and saying, if you really want to impact the world, you need to not only have men that are supporting women as advocates, men that are investing in women, but
Right.
women that invest in women. And
Right.
so women have been kind of sidelined in the venture capital world because most of the time they would go to large donors, and those would be men, and they would get their large investment from men. So Portfolio is a little bit different than it doesn't ask for a large amount of money, but it asks that you give, a $10,000 minimum. Most women invest more, but we have 14 funds, and each fund has a different investment thesis. It goes into a different area, but all of them are led by women investors.
I'm
And
glad you mentioned the amount, Nola, because I think that there's a misconception from people that if they want to invest in a company that, women don't see themselves as investors, first of all. And they think you need a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in companies, but you really don't, do you?
no, no, you don't, especially at the angel level and the early stage level. A little goes a long way. People are pretty good about it. And I would say, having worked in venture capital for 40 years, uh, at Kleiner Perkins and at TVM Capital, and raising funds and working side by side with guys, that I just believe in the model that, entrepreneurs will need venture capital, but their whole world of women entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs, LGBTQ entrepreneurs have been getting the short shift, which is where Portfolio comes in.
Hmm.
We invest in the things that they're missing, the bigger funds. The bigger funds are raising a large amounts of money, needing to put a lot of money to work. We're investing in small amounts of money and making that go far.
Hmm.
Uh,
Is
it,
it the same in other countries, or is this mainly a US issue?
Portfolio has investors from all over the world, but we only invest in U.S. corps.
Hmm.
And that's because it's just too much paperwork to
Yeah.
invest in other companies. But we have 46 countries that are investing with us. People
And
from
do you
all
find that women are more risk adverse to investing than men on a whole?
in short, women have never been asked, they've never been invited, they've
Mm.
never been allowed to sit at the table with the investors and think that they could do something. So the opportunity to create a best in class community and a culture that's united and empowers women to invest in innovative companies is really what Portfolia has done. So that's why I'm so happy to be here since 2018, helping women get comfortable at the table. There are no dumb questions. We allow women to see the entrepreneurs pitch, then the venture partners ask questions. And if the women want to get on the due diligence committee, they can. They can get as deeply involved as they want or not. They don't have to. But it just means we really want to make women welcome.
Yeah. And you're working with some incredible women and companies that are launching products that really help support women's health and society as a whole. Can you speak about any of them, or is it too early to publicly talk about some of these companies?
Oh, I'm happy to talk about the companies. We have, as I said, 14 funds. We're going to be opening the Femtech Fund, which is the third Femtech Fund next month, because the first and the second funds are invested already. We have a green and sustainability fund that's open now, a food and ag tech fund that's open. So really what women need to do is say, hey, I have, my net worth is $1 million less my house. That makes me a registered investor. I can put some of my money that's already sitting in my IRA or my 401k and direct it into venture capital and Portfolia. And then I'm going to learn how venture capital works by doing it. And I'm also going to get venture capital returns, which are usually outsized returns. They're usually 25% or higher.
And is that across the board, or how long has Portfolia been doing this?
Portfolia has been doing this since 2015. So it's young.
Yeah.
And you exit you get your return when one of the companies goes public or is bought. And if it's an older company, we might sell it to a secondary buyer and return the capital to the investor. But it's on a case by case basis.
Right, right. How many companies so far have gotten to that later stage where they've either been bought or sold, or
Many, and what we try to do is balance the portfolio by having some early stage companies and some later stage companies. And some of the ones that you might know are Maven, Everly Health, Bone Health is another one that I like because it's about osteoporosis.
Very important for aging women.
Future Family, which is a company that helps families afford fertility services like IVF and egg harvesting. Joy Lux, which is an innovative over-the-counter medical device that restores and heals and rejuvenates a woman's pelvic floor. A lot of these kind of investments, Debbie, you might not be surprised, would never be invested by a traditional male venture capitalist.
Right.
You do not want to talk about a pelvic floor on Monday morning. and even Facebook will not let Joy Lux, talk about vaginas on Facebook. But you can talk about erectile dysfunction all the time.
Exactly. That's why there's so many drugs for that and none for women's libido.
Yeah, you probably remember Madison Reed, which is a beauty company.
Yeah, I use their product to dye my hair. I love it.
We invested in them in the G round, in the later stage rounds, and we love the founder, who's a woman, and she named it after her daughter, Madison.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, they're actually in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I started using their products a while ago. They're really, really good. All mail order, although I think they now have places where you can actually go and get your hair colored.
Yeah, they have standalone salons, and she wants to own the business. But we have grown 500% since the start. We've raised over $50 million, and we're deploying it in many companies. So this is not, just a tiny thing anymore. And I love working with other women.
Yes, I do too.
Talk about, the relief of not having to have boundaries. I get to just be me now. And
I know, not having to put the suit on and not having to put that facade on. I only interview women on this podcast. So I love it as well. And I think that helping women and empowering other women are so important. And I love these products because if women are thinking about investing, they're products that they can really relate to. You know, they know someone in their lives, or they have had some experience where this product could help them. So I totally, totally get it. I love that fact.
Yeah, yeah. And we have 1,200 investors now. So
Wow.
people ask, where does your deal flow come from? It comes from our investors. It comes from our venture partners. I'm one of them. It comes from our founder, Trish Costello, ran the Kaufman Fellows Program, which was a best practices in venture capital for 20 years. So she has 700 venture capital contacts that went through her program in St. Louis that feed her deal. So we have a great deal flow. And some of the bigger venture capital funds like to have their deal blessed by us now. So they will
Right.
show us a B or C or a D round because they want the women to weigh in because they're starting to feel the pressure. And I like
I love that. I love that. And is this mainly on your work side? Are you mainly just working with Portfolio right now, and or
I
are you
have
doing
two
other work as
areas.
well?
Portfolio, I would say is 50% of my work time, and the
Hmm.
other is the Boardwise, where I work with women to get on boards of
Great.
public, private, and nonprofit companies, and to give them board certified and make them comfortable sitting at the seat with other board members. Because
Hmm.
we need more women in the boardroom, and we need more women investing. And only 30% of women that have money even think about investing. So I think we should be, we have we have ground to cover in terms of making women feel more comfortable in investing. And as a cap to your career, of course, you and I met on a board, but we
You
know
were
that,
my board member.
yes, we know that board work is work, uh, but it can be fun. It can be a lot of fun.
It absolutely can be, and it is a great way also to network and just make new connections and learn new businesses and things like that. Now, I know you love women, and I know that you are all about empowering women, and you're scientists and whatnot. But I also know that you have another side about keeping your life happier and healthier. And I want to talk a little bit about your wellness practices and what you do on a daily basis to be happier and healthier.
Well, you may remember that I have a horse.
Yes. And a dog.
And a dog and a cat. And so I'm very active, walking the dog, riding my horse. The cat takes very little energy, but
But
I
lots
have,
of love still, right?
I have,
Animals are a great way for us to get exercise, and for kind of an emotional just emotional connection, as well as just making us feel good, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And so, my routine is I have an exercise routine with weights that I use 5 times a week. And I walk and I ride my horse, and that's enough. I really don't have to do too much else except stay away from sugar and flour.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a little difficult. But when you were doing workshops in the organization that I ran for a while, you were doing workshops for women with some added benefit, not just business, right? Some spiritual.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me.
I really believe in the mind-body connection, and that we live in a benevolent universe, and that the universe wants to help us. But we have to ask the universe for what we want. So what we would do in the workshops that we ran at the retreat center was make vision boards.
Hmm.
In fact, one of my friends is running for supervisor of San Mateo County. I asked her to make a vision board, which she did. And then we show it to each other so that other people can hold our vision. That's an annual thing that I do at the beginning of the year. And then I look at the vision board on a daily basis and I feel it. I mood it.
Yes.
I get around that, and somehow or other the universe hears me, and all it shows up. It just
Yeah,
shows.
I've done vision boards a lot. Everyone has their own technique. Do you do like magazines, pick pictures from magazines, or do you do it with words, color? How do you do yours?
I do magazines, and the magazines I pick out the words, I pick out pictures that evoke some feeling, and I might write on it, some words. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right. You create an emotion about around that vision board, and you tell as many people as you can, and you show as many people as you can
Yeah.
what you have in mind without any attachment to whether this is going to come exactly this way or not, but just being open with that and creating that emotion so that you can open that door for those opportunities to come, right?
And then I have a deep meditation practice that I do on a daily basis.
And what do you follow, a certain type of meditation, or is it different every day? I would imagine riding your horse is very meditative too.
It is.
Or
Because
talking to your horse, right?
you can't be on your phone. You can't be anywhere other than grounded on a horse, or you'll
Yes.
get hurt.
You have to
You
be
know,
very present. Yes.
you have to be very present. So, and walking meditation when you walk the dog. I do that, but I have a group that I meditate with. Makes it more powerful when you send out your intention and your
Hmm.
vision. And I've recently found a trans channeler, a seal toke, and I've been working his programs. And he's a very powerful trans channeler. I can tell you how powerful because I was sitting in my room healing from hip surgery 2 years
Hmm.
ago during COVID, and I was introduced to him. And as he was channeling, my hip would get on fire. It would be really, really warm. And I went, wow, this titanium thing, it's really, really, this guy is really putting off some very strong energy because it was healing. And I believe that people can heal. I believe that we have lots of,
Hmm.
gifts that we can give to the world if we only open ourselves up to being silent and allowing.
Hmm.
The one who relaxes the most wins. You don't have to be
It's not about being busy or
no.
multitasking. It's about relaxing. I absolutely agree, and being present as well. And I'm glad you mentioned your healer, because we all, have issues with our bodies sometimes. And it seems like maybe sometimes traditional medicine is not the best route because we're not getting the answers we need. And you, coming from a scientific background, even understand the bigger picture. As you mentioned earlier on, there's a bigger picture to everything. And sometimes you do have to kind of go out of your comfort zone and look at something else, like a medical intuitive or some sort of meditation practice or some spiritual practice that connects you to something that is bigger than yourself, and the unknown world, or the unseen world. Whether or not you understand it completely or not, it doesn't really matter as much as what matters most is that you are open to it. Correct?
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
And so, Maureen Whitehouse has a wonderful expression. She's one of my teachers, and she's always saying, you came here to be the most wonderful human being, but you're also not your body. You're not your
Yes.
body. You're
Yes.
yourself.
And you
And
can only control so much in life, that's for sure.
that's right.
I think when people suffer the most is when they feel out of control, because they think they have a lot more control than they do, but you just don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nola, describe your perfect day to me.
My perfect day is always meditation in the morning, then slowly getting up and having a nice relaxed breakfast, reading the Wall Street Journal, couple of cups of tea, and then a walk with the dog, and then maybe a horseback ride, and then I come back and I get to work. I get on my Zoom calls and check my emails and do my finances and maybe have a meeting or two, and then the end of the day is usually spent with my husband, in the backyard, talking about our day and watching a movie at night.
That sounds very, very, very balanced.
Yeah.
Very balanced and very peaceful and very relaxing. Thank you so much, Nola, for your presence here today with us and all of your insight. Listeners, you can find links to connect with our guest today, hear more shows, or sign up for free programs on selfpowernow.com/guide. For example, if you're looking to have more love and better relationships in your life, who isn't? Join my free 5-day self-love challenge, or come on my monthly love Zoom call for women, where you can actually ask me questions live. Anyway, that page again is selfpowernow.com/guide. I wish everyone a wonderful day. Come back and join us next time. Thanks for listening to Self Power Now. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others. Follow it on your favorite podcast platform And join our community on selfpowernow.com and receive 3 free happiness gifts. And while you're there, if you're looking for more ways to be happy, healthy, peaceful, and loved, check out my books and new online courses. Until next time, this is Debbie Jasoni wishing you self-power now.